Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of Gold Vizen. It's been a while that we've been back and trying to talk about our national team, Iran. It's always a pleasure to have regular panelists Pezhman Pars and Sina Saemian here. How you both doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been too long, Pasha. It's great to speak to you guys again.
Nice to have the pod back again. Hi, Pasha.
And today we have a special guest, our Czech friend that is very knowledgeable about various Asian teams. How you doing, Tom? All the way from Czech Republic.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. It's been even a longer while for me, personally.
Beautiful. We're going to talk about, obviously, Group A. Basically, thankfully, Iran was not placed in Group B, which is definitely the harder group. But going back, it seems like the same teams that we're going to be playing like we did 4 years ago in order to qualify for Russia. As we know, in our group, there's China, ourselves, South Korea, Qatar, Syria, and Uzbekistan. Starting off with you, Pezhman, if you could give us your basically a little bit of analysis of what you thought about when we got put in this group, and if you think with or without Carlos Queiroz, we'll still be able to advance.
Well, I think it's a hard group. I don't see Iran as a clear favorite, not even behind South Korea. I think it's a exciting group with basically every team expects Syria. They aim for the first two spots. Of course they do, but they have a realistic chance to do that. And Syria might be that joker that upsets a lot of teams and take important points from them. I, as always, hope that Iran will do their best and qualify, but I think this is a hard group, and I can't see us winning any game comfortably. Maybe at home against Syria. That's the only 100%er, and even that might be kind of shaky.
Sina, what are your analysis of it, and do you agree with Pezhman?
I think certainly before the draw was made, I was looking at the teams that have qualified and the possibilities of the group that we could have had. And what I was really keen for Iran to avoid was the long trips to Far East, whether it's against China or Thailand. But of course, we ended up with South Korea and China, which I don't think are necessarily a very bad draw for us. But what does worry me is a little bit of complacency in terms of I think a lot of the Iranian media are looking at the group as pretty easy, which I don't think that's true. I think when you get to this stage of the qualification, there's no easy games, there's no easy groups, and I think as we saw in the last qualifiers, in the last World Cup, we played against pretty much the same teams, and we just about managed to qualify for the World Cup. So I think it'll be a very similar scenario this time around. I still think South Korea are the team to beat for the top spot, but I think for the second spot, I think they'll have to fight Uzbekistan for that. And Uzbekistan have been there a few World Cup qualifications. Now they've experienced, they're keen to finally qualify for their first World Cup, and I'm really wary of them. I think they could cause a lot of upsets, certainly against us. We luckily managed to beat them away from home in our very first game for the 2014 World Cup qualifiers. It was a 1-0 win, and I remember I think it was Khalatwari who scored the winner in the injury time. And I look at that as one of the key results for us to reach the World Cup. I think the games against Uzbekistan are really important, so we need to get results home and away against them. In terms of Qatar, again, there's a bit of a rivalry. Of course, so it'll add a bit more importance to the games, and it'll really spur the Qataris on whenever they play Iran. So, but I think, look, of course, we've got a very strong team, and with Queiroz in charge, there's always, we've always got a chance. But I don't think there's any easy games in this group whatsoever.
Tomas, that's a specific question for you. Looking at the past 4 years and now coming back to today's time of era, could you tell us a brief overview of like China, South Korea, and Qatar, and the massive changes you've seen, and where do you see them competing with the likes of obviously group favorites Iran and South Korea?
Well, this is a very interesting group because you have China, who are in transition after Perrin's tenure. So it's not. I think it's unsure at the moment if they are looking for a new coach or they are sticking with Gao Hangbo, who was their caretaker and actually took them to the next round despite the odds. So China is somewhat. I mean, they are certainly a counter-attacking outfit, and I think that won't change. They won't dictate the tempo. But it's still something of a question mark going forward. That's it. The same goes for Syria because they are also changing the coach now. The unpopular one is going away, so that can spur them on even better. And as for South Korea, I personally can't really see past them. I mean, they are pretty much locked to advance, but of course even they have issues. They still don't have the striker spot resolved. I mean, Lee Jung-hyuk was a joker card at the Asian Cup, but he was in and out. He's been in and out of the Shielikes squads ever since then, and Hwang Ui-jo can squander the biggest of chances. So there's no one really you can really rely on. So that needs to be solving. There's still a gap after Chaduri retired at the right back. They actually play a centre back there at the moment. So yeah, I think they are a team to beat, as Sina said. But I also don't think with their defensive resilience, they haven't conceded yet in the qualifiers, which is quite impressive, even though they didn't play Kuwait for the second time. I think even you guys know that defensive resilience that Queiroz has instilled is something pretty precious in Asia, especially. So
definitely. So my next question is, before we get into specifics of Iran, I would say for me the dark horse in this group is Uzbekistan, edging Qatar, and I was just trying to get your thoughts. I'm gonna come off with you, Sina, if you agree or not, and if not, who would you pick as a dark horse in this group?
No, definitely. As I said, Uzbekistan have been in this position for a few qualifiers now. I think they are overdue a World Cup appearance. It's impressive how they've risen in the last 2 decades. So look, I think, as I said, we've got to be wary of their qualities, and the games that we play against them, home and away, are so key to our qualification hopes. I think they're the team to beat for that second spot. I don't think we are clear favourites, but of course the rest of the teams in the group will be looking at us as a team that they'd have to beat if they want to qualify for the World Cup as well. Because, as Tom mentioned, South Korea are nailed on for that top spot. So it's going to be really tough for us. I think Azadi Stadium has always been a fortress for us. We'll try and get maximum points, but those games away from home will really determine whether we can qualify for the 2018 World Cup or not. Definitely, the away game to Uzbekistan is the key out of all of them for me.
Pezhman?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do agree with Sina with Uzbekistan and with you with Uzbekistan being the dark horse, but I think that Qatar will probably, after South Korea, be our toughest opponents. They're starting to build a really interesting team, and this is like more or less their last preparation for the 2022 World Cup. Also, the Asian Games, the Asian Cup is around there also, but they have a lot of young, interesting players coming up, and I can't really see. Let me say it like this. The away game against Qatar, I think a draw there is something that Queiroz actually would be happy with. A draw away from Uzbekistan is also something he can be happy with, and I think he's aiming to get all the points at Azadi Stadium and get the winners against Syria. And that's how we will qualify. Would be my guess.
Tomas, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think dark horses must be, as you guys said, Qatar and Uzbekistan. For Qatar, you never know who they're going to naturalize and who they're going to call up, which is frustrating for anyone who follows the football over there. But I think Carreño can spring some surprises even with his team selection on the day. So that's what makes them quite, it's hard to read them. Of course, they have a very powerful left back in Abdul Karim Hassan. They have a up-and-coming talent, mercurial talent in Akram Afif, probably like the closest Qatar will ever come to Omar Abdullah Rahman. And, that's something, those are game changers along with Hassan Al-Haidush. And it'll be interesting to see whether they can step up at this stage. And as for Uzbekistan, that's a very peculiar case, especially for me, because I try to study it very closely. And, they haven't been to World Cup, obviously, but they also haven't had a team in a Champions League final. They are pretty much the ultimate bottlers, but at the moment it seems that they have I think they will be actually disappointing that there are no June qualifiers on schedule, because they could seriously, they've picked up some sort of great momentum. They've won 7 games on the trot now. They actually, under the new coach, they haven't lost a point, and they had some very impressive wins there. So I think, in the space of those 6 months, anything can happen, and I think Babayan, the coach, will be disappointed to not be able to capitalize on the momentum. But they are a very exciting side. They have integrated a couple of guys who went to the under-20s World Cup last summer. So that's extremely swift integration, and they have Sardar Rashidov at the right wing. That's actually something I wanted you to ask, because he's very unpredictable in his movement. He cuts inside, he shoots from long distance. He's a very good dribbler. He can go past an opponent, and admittedly, I haven't seen Iran much in these qualifiers, which is shame on me. But from what I can gather, since the World Cup, actually, the left back has been somewhat of a mystery, because Puladi was a disappointment, at least for me, at the Asian Cup, and since then he hasn't featured. So I wanted to ask how this is solved, who actually plays there regularly, because I think there's been some rotation, and if that can be the spot where Uzbekistan with Rashidov can hit them.
Yeah, we'll get into specific. Actually, that was going to be my next question to Sina and Pezhman. Speaking about our own team, looking at our team that just got us to this round. Is there any specific changes you guys would like to see Queiroz bringing in more domestic players, or any other tactical switches you guys like to see? And then for the left back position, Sina will touch upon it right now.
Well, firstly, I think to answer Tom's question, Puradi has been on it. He's not even set foot in Iran for a couple of years now because of his military service issues. So that's the main reason why he's not been playing. He's been in Qatar for about 2 years now, and he wouldn't have played in the Asian Cup if it wasn't for Queiroz and the Iranian FA's intervention to allow him to make it an appearance for the national team. So for the same reason, he wouldn't be involved anytime soon again. But I think in the qualifiers, that left back spot, as you mentioned, was a vulnerability, especially in the first few games. I mean, the game against Turkmenistan away from home was a shambles, our left hand side. Haji Safi has been playing there regularly now, and I'm expecting him to be a regular feature at that spot as the final stage of qualification begins. There's been a few other players who've come into the national team for that left back. Meysam Majidi of Esteghlal is one. Milad Mohammadi, of course, who plays in the Russian Premier League, is another one. And Mohammad Ansari is the latest one, the Persepolis left back. He's the latest one to be involved in the national team. So I think Haji Safi will play at left back, but still we could see anyone, making an appearance, and that is definitely the weak point of our defence. I think when you also have a keeper like Hayri who's a little bit indecisive with crosses, it makes it even more of a weakness from wide areas. So as Tom said, going up against someone like Rashidov, it's always going to be difficult. But I've been really impressed with Queiroz's selections. We've seen a lot of young players getting involved. Some top talents, coming through. Mehdi Torabi is one that springs to mind straight away. Not many people had heard of him before he made his international debut, but since he's come in, he's been involved in pretty much every squad, making substitute appearances here and there. And there's a lot of competition for that right side of our midfield or the winger spot. Of course, there's Dejaga and Jahanbakhsh, but now you have Torabi as well. But all three of them can play on the left-hand side. So I think that's going to be interesting to see who will start on the right. I think it's almost impossible now to drop Jahanbakhsh with his performances in Holland, and a lack of attacking midfielder, playmaker. Of course, Shajai isn't. We all know, we said it for so many years that he's not as good as he used to be. So I think Dejaga will start behind the striker, and Jahanbakhsh on the right hand side. And of course, Saider Zatolai is another one, who's been playing. He's only 19, 20 years old, and he's been playing really well in the games that he's featured in. So I think, there's a lot to look forward to in terms of team selection, and in comparison to the last World Cup qualifiers in 2014, I think we'll see more rotation and a lot more young players being involved than we did in the last World Cup.
Coming off to you, Pezhman, is there anything you would like to add? And also, if you think that Ezatolai will be a regular now under Queiroz?
I think Sina summed up pretty good, Tom as well. The thing with Ezatolai is that he's been doing quite good for a national team, but he haven't played a single minute with a professional club in
Rostov in Russia.
But even before that, he haven't played a competitive game for a club for
a while.
It's like over 1.5 years now, I think. That will be a problem for us if we want to depend on Ezatolai. He's been doing good quite a couple of matches, but if we want to see him progress and be that important for us in the national team, he needs to start playing games, because playing World Cup qualifiers is like you play maximum 10 games per year or something like that. And with that, with his capability and with his age now, he needs to make some serious thoughts about his future. Otherwise, I agree with everything that Sina said.
Tomas, is there anything else you would like to add? And what do you want to? What are your expectations from the Iranian national team?
Well, I expect them to do good, obviously. First of all, I thank Sina for the explanation. I was aware of bloody troubles, although the details were somewhat hidden to me. So thanks for that. And I think as Guy said, I was pretty surprised by Keiru's selection on the paper, at least, and the amount of young players who got the chance. Taremi has been very impressive. His early international career goal record is actually better than Ali Deyes. So that's it'll be interesting to see if he can continue against the stronger opponents, because he got a couple of goals against the weaker ones, which won't feature in this round of qualifiers.
I have some questions actually now from Twitter coming from Art Esteghlal. This goes back to our team. He says there seems to be a lot of hype with Ali Reza Haighi. Who do you think should be number one keeper for Team Melli? Fuji Pezhman. Do you think it should be Haighi, or do you think it should be Bayram or somebody else in your head?
I think both are good enough to be the choices. Today, I would say Haighi. And I don't want to hear Sina say once again that Hariri is the best option from a bad choice. Well, that was for the World Cup. Now I think he rates Pezhman Pars as number one. Listen, if we will lose Hariri as number one in our goal, it won't be a disaster, because although he is training professionally in Maritimo in Portugal, it was a strange move because he's not playing any games. And the games he played so far are only because of the other goalkeeper got a red card. So he, and just as Ezatollah, if he wants to develop, he needs to start playing games. Training isn't enough, especially if you want to be a starter in the World Cup qualifiers. But I do rate him highly. I think he's proven himself, but he needs to step up, and he sometimes makes some strange mistakes. And that's the same thing with Pezhman Pars. To be honest, I had higher hopes on him, but every now and then he makes something really, really strange that reminds me of why Iranian goalkeepers are so inconsistent. So none of them are super good or super bad.
Sina?
Well, listen, how long have we been doing this podcast? I think we started the year before the start, and since then I've been saying the same thing. I've been making the same point that Harry is not a great goalkeeper. You know, I've said this for so long, and I still stand by my points. He's very indecisive, and as Pezhman quoted me, I think in the World Cup it was just the best of a bad situation to play him, and I still believe that. You know, I think. Harry right now is 27. He doesn't play regularly for Maritimo. I think that was his winning card for having the regular spot in the national team, for being able to play in Europe regularly, and he's not doing that at the moment. So I think, considering his poor performances in the last 12 to 18 months as well, there needs to be serious questions asked about his spot in the team. I think Pezhman Pars, and with the emergence of Akhbari as well, I think they need to be more of a chance. They need to be given more of a chance to prove themselves. And look, I think if you have a 27-year-old goalkeeper and a 22, 23-year-old keeper, and they're at the same level, I think it's much better to spend that time, to invest that time on a younger goalkeeper than a 27-year-old, which I 100% don't think you can get any better than he is right now. I've never rated him, and I don't think I ever will. So I think in this, in these 2 years, I would like to see Pezhman Pars given more of an opportunity to show his abilities, and certainly Akhbari has been a revelation in the last 12 months.
Yeah, but Sina, it's not for charity, just picking the one. First of all, I don't agree with you that both are at the same level. I think Hariri is on a higher level than Pezhman, but he's famous for his throws. But that's not enough. If we had to choose a goalkeeper today, I would still choose our 27-year-old goalkeeper. That's not an age for a goalkeeper, and I think he can develop from now. You never see, look at Buffon. He's 69 years old or something. He's one of the oldest goalkeepers that still are playing, around 40 years, I think, and he still develops on the field. But you become a smarter player. He's maybe getting older and maybe not in the same shape, but he's much smarter in knowing his position. He's much smarter being a leader, and that's something you can always develop. Maybe you can't develop throwing longer, but you can develop throwing right.
Hariri, when the Asian Cup took place, I think he was in much better shape in terms of his performances than he is right now. And back then I said, this guy will not get any better. This is the best of him that we're going to get. He's not going to improve. He's suddenly not going to become Avid or an amazing goalkeeper. And I still say the same thing. 12 months on, he's made mistakes that I knew he was capable of. And, I'm still sticking by my word. I don't think he's a great goalkeeper. What I'm saying is, he's not the undisputed number one. So others need to be given a chance to prove themselves, to show what they can do. Because Pezhman, man, I've watched him in the league, and it's not about the long throws. I think he's a fantastic shot stopper. He does, goalkeeping is about making decisions. And he has made some odd decisions here and there. But again, when you're a 22-year-old making those decisions, it's completely different to someone who's almost 30. And also your point about Buffon, I completely agree that when you grow older, you rely on your experience. But this guy has never been an amazing goalkeeper for him to lose his ability and then rely on his experience. This is a guy who spent between the ages of 23 to 25 sitting on the bench for Rubin Kazan and Persepolis when those were the key years of his development. And he lost all that time. He wasted those 2 years, and now he's always trying to recover those 2 years. And again, he's at Maritimo. He's not playing regularly, and I don't expect him to. I expect him to return to Iran within the next 2 years. But again, my point. I'm still standing by my point. I think, I'm not saying he should be removed from the team tomorrow. But what I am saying is, other goalkeepers need to be given a chance to show what they can do, because I don't think Hariri is the undisputed number one for Iran.
Okay, can I also step in?
No, of course, I was just going to come to you.
Oh, okay, cool. No, I just wanted, because I think, for a longer time, I thought Sina is being a bit harsh on Hagigi, because I was pretty impressed at the World Cup, especially in the air, and how calm he was when he went for a high ball, which is something of a, you don't get this too often in Asia. But of course, many matches have gone since then, and I think the mentioned shot stopping ability will be very crucial in this group in particular, because you're going to come up against some of the best long distance shooters on the continent. You have Son Heung-min, who tries his luck very often, as well as Odil Ahmedov for Uzbekistan. I already mentioned Sardar Rashidov, who has insane rate when it comes to getting his shots on target. He shoots from distance, and he actually can hit the target, which, for example, Akhmedov can't on a regular basis. So you need a goalkeeper who's really alert, who can react on time, who has the great timing, in jumping to the corners. And I don't think Hagigi has this. I've always found him a bit mediocre in this respect. He has a good frame and stuff, but maybe this could be the weakness when you go shooting up against him. Quite often he could crumble.
Also, another thing is as well, in the World Cup, the way we played was, it was very rigid. But also, if you look at the back four, he had 4 very experienced defenders in front of him. There was no decision that he had to make. There was no need for any communication with his defence because he was already working on the training ground. All he had to do was come out and catch a cross, or if there was a shot, obviously try to save it. But I think since then, with the changes that we've gone through, with especially in the back four, we've seen a lot of rotation, whether it's Purel Genji coming through, the problem we've had at left back, Uriah Bakfuri coming in at right back. We've had a lot of rotation. I think that's where his weaknesses have been coming out because then he's not had the consistent back four and the solid and the experienced defenders playing in front of him. And I think that's where his weaknesses have been exposed. And in the Asian Cup, in the game against Iraq, I think it was for the first or second goal when a cross came from Iran's right hand side, and he could have easily come out and saved it, with a quarter or punch or whatever. He didn't, and the goal was scored. Then he made the exact same mistake a few months ago against Turkmenistan. So you can see, these weaknesses are getting exposed, and this is what I was talking about before the World Cup. I've seen this goalkeeper. I know his average. Obviously, no one believed me then. But I'm still going to stick by my point and say, look, this guy is not as good as everyone thinks he is. I think he's getting helped out by his defence and the way Iran plays as well in their rigid formation and tactics. So as I said, within the next 12 to 24 months, I think other goalkeepers, specifically Akhbari and Beyronband, need to be given a chance to show themselves.
Yeah, so I have a next question I would like to talk before we get to the striker position. For the number 10 role, who do you guys want to see? You guys want to see the Jaga still in that role or anybody else? Starting coming off with you now, Sina.
Well, I think as things stand at the moment, and with the problems that someone like Suresh Rafi and Bakhtiar Rahmani are having with their military service, I can't see anyone other than Ashton Dejaga playing in that role. Certainly within the next 6 to 7 months, because I can't see anyone in the league at the moment being able to offer what Dejaga has to offer, or anything near Masoud Shahri, for example. So I think for the time being, we'll have to stick with Dejaga. And, there's a couple of young players. Well, Mehmet Mohammadi is one of them. He can play behind the striker. He's more of a second striker than a playmaker. I'm not sure if that really suits the way Queiroz sets up his teams. But, I don't think we'll have a better option than Dejaga for that role.
Pezhman?
Dejaga is by far the best option, but maybe even someone like, I don't know, Torabi, although I usually see him more up front, but I've seen him playing at number 10 before, and he's done quite well, so he can be interesting. We're relying more and more on Dejaga, and I think it's good for him. He's been taking that responsibility, and even now lately was the captain for national team. But Dejaga is also good playing on the right side. Well, usually Jahan Bakhsh maybe will be playing now, so we have some options for the right side that will affect how we play for the number 10. But I do agree that Dejaga is by far the best choice we have today.
I think on the right hand side as well, as Pezhman mentioned, the last couple of games for the qualifiers, we saw Ramina Rezoyan at right back and Jahan Bakhsh at right wing, having a great connection between them, and most of our attacks were concentrating on our right hand side. So I would like to see that again, that connection between Rezoyan and Jahan Bakhsh. As I said, I think it's really difficult to see how Jahan Bakhsh can be dropped to bench now with his performances in Holland for his Alkmaar. So I think behind the striker is probably the best option we have.
Tomas?
Yeah, so to be honest, I would expect Jahanbash to already has his spot nailed on, nailed at the moment. But it's encouraging that you guys are saying that he has to start from now on. Although that's been said for quite a long time, I think, in his case. And I don't necessarily think that Queiroz rates him that much. Maybe he sees him even as a luxury guy. You have those players all around Asia that coaches are not comfortable to put them in the squad against the stronger opponents and at all times as well. And another thing, Dejaga, I think I'm quite surprised that he's been starting through the middle, because I always saw him as pretty much the best right winger in business on the continent. I actually argued that way in an article just after the start of the Asian Cup, that he's somewhat underrated, especially his work rate. He has great flair, great skills, but what people usually or often don't see is how hard he works, and both ways. So I think it's actually I'm always surprised when I look at his age that he's quite old, because he came to the international stage very late, and so this is actually his last shot, isn't it, for a big tournament. So I'm intrigued to see how he approaches it, and how much of a big role he plays.
But we should not also forget that he was with the German under-21s in 2009, and so he has some international experience, and he's also won the Bundesliga. Wasn't far away from the German national team, but maybe he wasn't good enough, and he also had some really odd or maybe stupid comments about not willing to play in Israel, and that was more or less a death wish for wanting to not play for Germany. But I do agree with you, Tom, that when you look at him, his age, he's not that super young, but he's doing quite well, and he's still got that speed actually with the ball, and that nice control that we really appreciate to see, because it looks really elegant.
I have a personal question for you guys. Looking at how well Taremi has been doing in the league, and how well Sardar Azmoun is doing for our national team, some impressive stats. Forgot it's like 11 goals like in 13 games. I might be mistaking, but coming back to this, do you guys see a partnership that Queiroz might be testing like he was doing against like Guam and stuff like that in the last round, or do you guys think he's just gonna stick with attacking midfielders behind Sardar Azmoun? Because I feel like right now, with the likes of Taremi, he should definitely be the backup option to Sardar Azmoun, with how impressive he's been for Persepolis and in the Iranian league as a whole. Coming off with you, Pezhman.
For me, Taremi is one of the best in the Iranian league. That doesn't say much these days. I like that he has some strength. He knows where the goal is. But for me, when I see him, I find him kind of unprofessional. And we could see that also in the game against Esteghlal, the derby, when he was insisting of taking a penalty, which he wasn't supposed to shoot, because no matter what, he wanted to score a hat-trick. That kind of behavior is nothing that Queiroz accepts. He always put the team ahead of individual players, and we've seen that with our maybe best goalkeeper Mehdi Rahmati not being in the squad anymore. I hope that Taremi will go to Europe. I hope he will get some playing time in a professional club, where he will get professionalized as a mental player, not just a good goal scorer. That's not enough. And if I have to choose, I would choose Karim Ansarifard above Taremi today, because he has that international experience and a lot more professional attitude, and that's what you need if you want to be in the long run. Scoring against Esteghlal, Ahvaz and Furad Khuzestan isn't enough for being in the first squad. or being in the starting 11.
Sina?
I kind of disagree with what Pezhman said in terms of the professionality of Mehdi Taremi. I think in Iranian football there's a lot of controversy surrounding a lot of players. But Taremi is one that has always stayed quiet. He's always gone on with his football. You rarely hear any negative about his attitude. And I think about the penalty thing that he said, I think it shows bravery. This is a guy that's scored 2 goals before the penalty, and he's eager to score a hat-trick. I don't think that's necessarily a negative point. And we've seen Taremi being involved in the national team as a right winger sometimes. I think earlier on in qualification we saw him against Uzbekistan as a right winger, and he's been quite effective. Of course, I think he's got around 5 goals, if I'm correct, in about 9 appearances. So that's a good record. But it's interesting how we are in April 2016 and we have so much option for that striking spot. But if you go back to 4 or 5 years ago, one of the main reasons why Pezhman came and played for the national team in the first place was because we didn't really have any strikers. We had no one. That's why we had to bring Pezhman over from, I think at the time it was Belgium or Holland, and he did really well. But here we are, we've got a lot of options for that, striker position. Of course, Osman is definitely a starter. I don't think there's any question about that. But then you have Ansari Faz, who's been doing really well for his club in Greece this season. Mehdi Taremi, of course, Pezhman, who's been somewhat quiet for Charlton Athletic, and they're having a really horrible season in the championship. But then you've also got the likes of Kobirezai, who's now playing the Asian Champions League as well. He's really effective. I think he has more to his game than just a goal scorer. I think he's definitely an option going forward, at least off the bench. And then you got Mehdi Sharifi, who's been involved in the squads a few times. He's 23, I think, now. So I think he's another one as well to look out for. So we've got a lot of options for that striking position, which is great. Competition is always good. It'll automatically improve players, and I think it's because of that competition why we saw the likes of Ansari going to Europe to prove himself, and that's why he's doing so well in Greece. So I'm hoping, as Pezhman said, to see the same with Taremi. Hopefully he'll move to Europe and showcase his skills in a European league.
Tomas, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I don't have much to add on this matter, but I'm just glad that Gucci is not in a starting option anymore. I don't know. I just kind of dislike the guy. I know he has a pretty good goal-scoring record for Iran, especially, or it was at just those one qualifiers actually, where he got a hot streak in the crucial phase. But he's very rigid, inflexible. I don't think that's someone who Iran should count on going forward. And Azmoun is a completely different option, which is nice to see. And as for the penalty incident, I think that's not really unprofessionality. You have these cases all around Europe, even in the best leagues, where just player. I think I would call it determination, hunger. And actually, I would like to see this on my striker, especially since he's supposed to do justice up front alone, since he's in the formation of where just one striker functions. I think that's an important attribute for him to have the determination, drive.
Appreciate the thoughts. Now, I just want your final predictions, no bias. Tomas, my friend, who would you say is going to be first place and second place going to the next round, trying to make it to Russia?
I think it's going to be South Korea and Iran in this order. But I think Uzbekistan will be right below Iran.
Sina? With or without K-Rush?
Yeah, I agree with Tom. I think the K-Rush thing is a completely different topic. I'm not going to go into it, otherwise we're going to be staying here for another half an hour minimum.
But I think as things stand right now, we have a very good chance of qualifying. But as I said, those 2 games against Uzbekistan are the key games for us. I think if we want to qualify, Uzbekistan will probably look at this qualifiers and think this is the year that we should really push for a World Cup spot if we want to get there. And I think they will really target the games at home in Iran at home against Iran specifically, in their quest to qualify for Russia. So I think we've got to be prepared for a really, really tough challenge from them.
Pezhman?
I think Qatar will qualify, and the second team will qualify will be Iran or South Korea. I don't know which one. I will almost say South Korea, and Iran will, as always, take the last shot and will qualify via the playoffs and play against CONCACAF. And I would love it if it would be against the USA. Imagine that. That's not impossible. We'll see.
If they could make it, they're in trouble right now. But I appreciate it, guys. Always a pleasure speaking to you guys, and we're going to do it again. And Tomas, my friend, always a pleasure to having you on, and appreciate you hopping on.
Pleasure on my side, thanks.
Cheers, guys.